So anyways, today's topic I'm going to discuss is Destiny's endgame leveling system and why it is terrible. To start things off, it is slow and incremental. Suppose you are trying to get to level 390 to do a raid, but you are level 380. Engrams are programmed to always decrypt above your light level. This turns into a long cycle where you have to keep getting engrams, and in between, you have to keep equipping your absolute max light level to progress. Now suppose you max out at light level 385. At this point, you are ready to wash, rinse, and repeat by finding more blue engrams, but you quickly realize they have a max decrypt cap of 385. To explain the scenario so far, nothing is inherently wrong about the idea of gear dropping based on your light level. How high above is the only issue. It only drops a small amount of light above your current light level. I'll explain what is wrong with it in the next scenario. Having blue engrams stop decrypting at a higher point is justified. It would make the game too easy to beat. Blue engrams are super common along with the blue items you get from beating a strike or a crucible match. Continuing with the previously explained scenario, you move on to do the Nightfall Strike. Thankfully, the legendaries you achieve still drop higher, but is still just as incremental as the blue engrams. The most you can make out of this is if you get a legendary RNG reward at the end of the strike and open the chest with a skeleton key. As mentioned earlier, the legendaries drop a small amount of light above your current light build. Would you understand why blue engrams work this way? I would. Would you understand if one legendary you slave 10 minutes to an hour worked this way? That's for you to decide. So this is the part where things get interesting. Raids are guaranteed to drop gear at the minimum light level, if you go into them under that level. Specifically, I am talking about level 390 Vault of Glass, Crota's End, or Wrath of the Machine. With this knowledge in mind, you are slightly below the minimum recommended level, but reasonably close enough and feel ready for the raid. But the people you know on Xbox Live or PlayStation Network aren't interested in Destiny at the moment or don't even play the game at all, meaning you have no choice but to look through Destiny LFG. You are then discouraged and shocked to see posts such as this, and the... What? Seriously? Anyways, this is a huge letdown because you can't get any more guaranteed legendaries from the Nightfall and have no skeleton keys. Normally, this is where someone would give up and wait until the weekly reset. Keep in mind, even if you did, it is still slow because you only have as much legendaries as your skeleton keys can provide, the Nightfall can provide, and the Cryptarch can provide. Not to mention, thanks to this great and caring community of Destiny, level 390 will not cut it anymore. Gotta step it up to level 400 or 395, or even become an Australian supremacist. However, I am not patient enough for this cycle, as you might imagine. The following is just an anecdotal experience to follow up on how unreasonable the level system is. It's actually kind of a funny story though. It's even what motivated me to make this video after putting it off so long before it happened. If you want to skip to my conclusion, click anywhere on the screen now. So without further ado, grab your popcorn and start listening. I was looking for a Vault of Glass LFG group. This was during the week when they had the challenges available. At the time, I was level 386. After doing some digging, I found a recent posting that explicitly stated that anyone was welcome. Well, cool, I thought. I might have a pretty chill team. Upon sending my request to be invited, I get invited and join their party. Once we were assembled in orbit, They asked me what my light level was, and I told them my light level. When I told him my light level, there was some minor doubt among the team, as I could tell. Nothing too big yet. But I was confident that I could pull it off just fine since I held my own, completing Wrath of the Machine up to Part 1 of Axis as a level 365 on normal difficulty. I even had the stats on screen. And to add to that, this was Vault of Glass. I've been around since year 1, and it should be relatively easy to do. Upon spawning in, I noticed they have the Gatekeeper checkpoint, but I didn't really care since I was desperate for some level 390 loot. The Gatekeeper encounter takes several attempts to complete, but we did it. It is worth noting that I did die a bit because of the higher level, but it was the exact same way when I did Wrath of the Machine really good. So in the next encounter, I decided to play more defensive. When we do move on to the next encounter, the one or two little squeakers are being obnoxious and really off guard. We wiped a few more times until we decide to pause and form a strategy. And we wipe several more times until the squeakers get their stupidity out of their systems and start trying for once. That's when we begin to make progress and begin executing our plan we had with great efficiency. We took out just below a quarter of Atheon's health, but we wiped in the middle of the next portal phase. That's when one of the members starts to yell at me for being low light. He was very angry, but I tell him that the only reason why I'm there is because of the stupidity of leveling and the other activities. He didn't really care, but we moved on. This time we get Atheon to below half health, but wipe again. It's at one point one of the squeakers has to leave for dinner, and pretty much the rest of the raid group departs as well. The same person that was yelling at me from before got even more angry, and he yelled some more, and another friend rambled along with him and whatnot. Why I found this interesting was that this whole attempt lasted 40 minutes and people were already angry and giving up. Had we been attempting this for hours and hours upon end, then I myself would probably be just as angry as the other guy. They even might have been doing it for hours before they needed another team for the Gatekeeper. But moving on, I quit the party, went to orbit, and decided to change a few things around with my character for just a few minutes. Then I am invited back into the party by one of the raid members. I join. It's the guy who yelled at me and another raid member, and they just proceed to talk a lot of trash. What they were telling me the whole time was something to the effect of, "Ha ha 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 ha! OMG, you suck at the raiding, noob, don't play again, you suck, lol." The sad part about this is, I am exaggerating, but not by that much. Just imagine that, except with more racial slurs and vulgar language. So moving on, I laugh and tell them that they aren't doing themselves any favors since I'm nothing but entertained to hear them cry their salty tears out of their head. And what clever response do they come up with? "OMG, you suck at the raiding, noob, don't play again." And then they kicked me out of the party. So I join my friend's party and tell them what happened. Then I get a message from one of the other raid members. I open it up expecting more whiny insults, but the message actually said I didn't do that bad, and I was pleasantly surprised. I thank him and write another message quickly telling him about the party that talked trash to me. I am promptly invited to another party from the guy I was messaging. We talk about it and he essentially told me how I didn't do that bad again. We also talked about the supplicants in the encounter, which was the reason why I was dying half the time in the Atheon part. I asked him about the other raid members. He told me that he didn't know much about him other than he was a friend of a friend he has. So I tell him goodbye and leave. So essentially, the takeaway from all of that I just said is that calmness and patience are virtues nobody on LFG has whatsoever. What a cesspool. But even more importantly, it's just merely a result of how terribly grindy the leveling system is for non-raid activities. The thing is, Bungie has pulled a lot of stops by making legendary marks super common and increasing the skeleton key drop rate, meaning it should theoretically be easier to earn high-level gear, but it isn't given how little of a level increase you get from earning newer gear. Do I expect Bungie to rectify this matter for the time being? No, I do not. Destiny's days are numbered, especially with Destiny 2 releasing in just a few months. However, this issue is still quite important. While Bungie does promise to transform and refine Destiny 2 into a great and fresh game, it could still be held back if this cycle of relying on engrams to drop one light above your max level, then infusing it, is kept in Destiny 2. What would be better? An answer to that is to fix the values for endgame activity gear. During year 1, that's how it worked. You went to a certain raid and got a certain level of gear, and that certain level of gear was what you got. Ever since the release of The Taken King, the way light level worked changed dramatically. More gear dropped at odd number light level, and weren't dropping at the next level tier required for hard mode. As a result, you had to grind more and constantly keep infusing your gear. It's a thing that should not make it to Destiny 2. If it does, Bungie had better rework it to not destroy the pacing of the game. If they don't, then they better cover the cost of every flight ticket to Australia. Hey!